The other day, a podcast link came in my messages. And if you're into podcasts like I am, you do them and you listen to them. And Krista was interviewed, and we're going to hear from this podcast. And we've got the approval from Scott Greats to rebroadcast it in the next episode. But first, let's see what Notebook LM, the AI, came up with. And later, I think we'll hear Krista's voice in the future podcast.
When placed in a competitive environment and realizing you are entirely outmatched, a specific panic sets in. The instinct is to simply disappear. For 12-year-old Krista DeCroix, that desire to vanish was her default state. She was a skinny, profoundly shy kid who spent most of her time terrified of drawing attention to herself. The anxiety was physical. On Sunday nights, her dread of the upcoming school week and the terror of being called on triggered severe stomachache. This childhood insecurity is a vacuum of self-belief. Without a sense of worth, a person lacks the internal structure to defend against the pressure of being seen. Instead of letting her retreat, her father pushed her to step onto a very different kind of stage. He told his 12-year-old daughter to try out for a competitive swim team called the Peoria Area Water Wizards. She stepped onto the pool deck, facing a massive deficit. To make the team, kids had to swim all 4 strokes. Krista could barely manage a butterfly or a breaststroke, landing her on the lowest rung of a roster filled with kids who had been swimming since they were 5. The psychological strain of that moment is immense. A young girl whose survival mechanism is invisibility is now standing entirely exposed in a swimsuit, surrounded by athletes who have already mastered the environment. At this stage, Krista didn't have the internal reserves to believe in herself. That belief would have to be imported from someone else. Enter Mark Rauterkus. He was Krista's very first coach with the Water Wizards, the external catalyst who supplied the perspective she lacked. Coach Mark certainly spent time correcting her physical mechanics in the water, but his primary construction project was her mind. He was building psychological armor for a kid who felt defenseless. He installed a very specific athletic mindset. He taught her that raw physical skill has zero value on its own. To actually execute under pressure, that physical ability requires the structural support of intense work ethic and mental fortitude. This framework pays its dividends in the agonizing seconds right behind the starting blocks. When a swimmer steps up, the anxiety of competition is converted and locked into focus before the starter pistol even fires. This dynamic rewires a terrified brain. It takes the concept of accountability, which an insecure kid normally views as a looming punishment, and redefines it as the highest form of professional support. Buoyed by that accountability, Krista evolved. The deeply shy novice transformed into a fiercely competitive athlete, moving through the water with total command. The athletic payoff for that foundational training arrived years later when she secured an NCAA Division I college scholarship. At the elite collegiate level, everyone in the pool is fast. What separated Krista from her competitors was the mental resilience Mark had planted back when she was 12. The lane lines of that local pool functioned as a crucible, manufacturing a leader who viewed pressure as a prerequisite for performance. Fast forward to the present day. Krista Hawkins is now a high-level executive advisor and the co-owner of a firm called Future Legacy Partners. Her daily mandate involves coaching thousands of top business leaders. Behind closed doors, many of these successful executives struggle with the same self-doubt that haunted her in elementary school. To pull them out of it, she deploys a rigorous corporate methodology. She anchors her training in holistic health routines, forward-looking accountability, and what she calls love leadership. This corporate playbook is a direct mirror of the system Coach Mark Rauterkus used on her decades ago. The most effective executive leadership strategies in the corporate world are often scaled-up, refined versions of elite youth coaching. If you strip athletics down to their absolute core, sports are simply games of time, space, and relationships. Mark used his time on that pool deck to build a relationship that moved a terrified 12-year-old from the back of the classroom to the head of the boardroom. That investment of belief refused to stay contained to the water. It created a cascading effect, branching out from one athlete and eventually touching thousands of professionals across the country. The weight of a coach's legacy lives in the belief passed to a single athlete, which then amplifies across every professional she eventually leads.
Hey, thanks for the shout out in memory, Krista. I hope you and your family and your partner and your business and everybody you're attached to, especially your clients, are appreciating your gifts and your leadership. I want everybody else to stay tuned, subscribe to the podcast, and in the next episode, we're going to hear Krista's voice. Thanks for all you do for our sport.
Today's fortune statement is:
self-awareness is the first step to gaining control.
This comes from Mental Skills for Young Athletes, written by John Hogg, PhD, a sports psychologist from British Columbia, Canada. The idea here is simple but not easy. Reflect on it, then write about how it applies to where you are right now. The book and the online course are available at swimisca.com. Mental skills grow through attention, not intention.